Hello, I'm Surena Kiani, consultant immunologist from Barts Health, and I'm going to give you a 10 minutes talk on current and future medications for treatment of HAE. I've been asked to do this in this special occasion, which is the 10th anniversary of HAE UK, and I'd like to congratulate you for your achievements and having such a fantastic organization, because it's because of your efforts that actually there are so many drugs around for me to talk about, and may this continue in future so we could understand HAE better and manage it better for you. So we all know what HAE is. It's swellings under the skin, subcutaneous, or under mucosa or submucosal tissue. So imagine this is a diagram that represents the skin and a blood vessel. And those are red and white cells, which are actually irrelevant in this case, but I've put them in there to depict the blood vessel. So swelling under the skin, in this case, or under mucosa, can cause what we call angioedema. And the reason for it in HAE is overproduction of a substance called bradykinin. Too much bradykinin results in blood vessels becoming leaky and fluid leaving the blood vessels, going under the skin or under the mucosal surfaces and causing angioedema. Let's look at this in a bit closer. So high molecular weight kininogen is a big protein that we need in order to produce bradykinin. And to make bradykinin, you need certain tools, such as kallikrein and factor 12. So kallikrein and factor 12 are two enzymes, or there are tools, like, for example, a pair of scissors. So high molecular weight kininogen, kallikrein, and factor 12 come together in a trimer. Trimer means three molecules, or three. So this is a large molecule, a macromolecule made out of three molecules. Kallikrein and factor 12 have certain shapes inside them which recognizes part of high molecular weight kininogen, and it binds it. And that's absolutely necessary for them being able to do their job, which is cutting a piece of high molecular weight kininogen and making bradykinin. Those triangles meant to be bradykinin. So bradykinin has got receptors on the surface of endothelial cells. Endothelial cells are the cells that make the walls of blood vessels. On them, there are many receptors, and some of these receptors are receptors for bradykinin. What does it mean, receptors? It means they're almost like they're locks, and the key to these locks is bradykinin. So once bradykinin binds these receptors, or once it's like a key which opens or switches something on. And once bradykinin switches on one of these receptors, they open up a space in between the endothelial cells, the cells which form the walls of blood vessels. And this allows fluid to leave the blood vessels and cause angioedema. Now, we need this process in normal life. We need it to some degree, because we want to transport certain material and cells from inside the blood vessels to outside the blood vessels. But we don't need too much of it. And what controls the level of production of bradykinin, the level of extravasation of fluid or cells, extravasation means leaving the vessels, is C1 inhibitor. Now, C1 inhibitor, you all know, is what is either absent in HAE or it's there, but it's not working very well. And in order to treat HAE then, so there are two ways of treating HAE. One is to prevent HAE from happening, and this is what we normally do for people who have regular attacks, or to basically treat acute attacks. So first of all, let's talk about how would you try and prevent attacks of HAE. So prevention of HAE is really the decision to use preventive therapy is a decision made between the patient and their physician. And it's based on the number and severity of attacks. And it's also to do with the patient preferences. Some patients may not want to take regular medications. And some of it is because actually regular medications at the moment are not very convenient. For example, if the regular medication has to be an injection, they might not want to do this. But in future, it might be actually that everyone should take preventive treatment. But apart from those discussions about using preventive treatment, we are also bound by what NHS England dictates or commissions us to do, and that is that a certain type of treatments can be only used in certain type of people who have certain number of attacks, for example. All these could change in future. So the most straightforward thing is to actually replace that missing C1 inhibitor by using either human C1 inhibitor extracted from donors, from healthy donors in the form of Berinet or Cinryze, or by using what we call a recombinant form. That's like a genetically engineered type of C1 inhibitor, which is made in rabbits, called Ruconest. In terms of prevention, people who get prophylactic or preventative C1 inhibitor, the commissioning criteria suggests that we give it twice a week. And then we either increase or reduce the frequency or increase or reduce the dose depending on how the patients respond. An old-fashioned way of treating or preventing C1 inhibitor deficiency or angioedema in patients with HAE is using attenuated androgens. These are basically have many side effects in a lot of people, but many people also tolerate them really well for many years without any obvious side effects. A typical one that we might use is danazol, and another one that we use at Barts is called oxandrolone. The way they work is they increase the production of C1 inhibitor by the liver. Now, the other thing we can do to stop production of bradykinin is to block that groove of kallikrein, the part of kallikrein that is enzymatically active, the part of it which actually binds high molecular weight kininogen. And that has been done by a drug called ecallantine, which is not used in the UK, so I won't talk about it. But we also have had a new drug called lanadelumab, which is a monoclonal antibody we've had since January 2019, and it's about 60 people in the UK who are on it at the moment. Now, lanadelumab is a monoclonal antibody, as I said. Monoclonal antibodies are actually certain proteins that are produced. Parts of them has a three-dimensional shape, which you design it in order to fit in or be the mirror image of something specific. In this case, it's been designed to be the three-dimensional shape of that part of lanadelumab is the mirror image of the groove of kallikrein, the bit of kallikrein which interacts with high molecular weight kininogen. So if you block that with lanadelumab, you stop it from chopping high molecular weight kininogen and producing bradykinin. It's an injection given every 2 weeks, but it can be reduced to every 4 weeks or less regularly if patients don't have any attacks. The next thing is an oral drug, which is called Trialstat, which also binds to the same, it's a small molecule, it binds to the same groove and it's meant to be taken daily. It's not available yet. We are in a process of getting early access to it through NICE, and hopefully we should have it by the end of this year in the UK. That's a daily drug which is taken by patients who need preventive treatment, and perhaps would be useful for people who don't have as severe a disease as people who are on regular C1 inhibitor or on regular lanadelumab, but they still have enough swellings that need prevention. There are drugs, experimental drugs. One of them is called CSL312, which is actually another monoclonal antibody injection, which is against factor 12 rather than kallikrein. And that's coming again. We are actually in the process of bringing it for a clinical trial to Barts and the UK. And then there's another factor 12 inhibitor, which is ALN-F12, but this actually reduces production of factor 12 rather than blocking the groove. There is another small molecule, which is called ATN-249. These are all experimental. None of them have really been put in the market. They're not in the market yet. And this one is it's against kallikrein, and it's a tablet as well. And then Ionis PKKRX is a molecule which also reduces kallikrein production. So all these are in the pipeline. So now let's move on to prevention of or treatment of acute attacks. So acute attacks, let's start by talking about, here we go, this place here, the groove in which bradykinin binds in the bradykinin receptor. This can be blocked for treatment of acute attack. And this is done, as a lot of you might have this drug, by a drug called icatibant, which is an injection which can be given at the time of an acute attack. The other thing which is already here, I have it here, is C1 inhibitor. Any of these C1 inhibitor replacement drugs can be given during an acute attack, and I think all of you should have one of these drugs at home. Some people might have both these things, the icatibant and bayonet, to use during their acute attacks. A new drug that we are actually going to have early 2021 in a clinical trial here in the UK is called Pharvaris, which is actually the same as icatibant, but it's taken orally rather than by injection. And there is a drug called KVD900, which is another oral drug that we used in clinical trials for treatment of acute attacks at Barts, and the trial is finished now, but there's going to be a new phase next year. And this drug, the special thing about it is that once you take it, it very quickly builds up to its maximal levels in the blood, so it's very fast. And what it can do is, hopefully, if you take it early enough, it could stop attacks. And it's for people who probably don't like to take regular medications, but they can have some of these in their pocket, and if they feel they're having an attack, they would take it. That's the hope, that's the idea of future. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you for listening.